You don't see it at first. It doesn't come with a robe or a pulpit. No hymns, no temples, just glowing screens and frictionless interfaces. You wake up, unlock your phone, and step into the day like it's a ritual. You pray with your thumbs, algorithms watch. Somewhere in California, a server farm hums quietly like a shrine. Technology didn't replace religion by force. It didn't need to. It just offered something smoother. No guilt, no waiting. No invisible gods, just answers, updates, and dopamine loops. People stopped asking, "Why am I here?" and started asking, "What's the Wi-Fi?" The new sacred text is code. The new clergy wears hoodies. And the faithful don't kneel, they scroll. Tech promised salvation. Escape from death through consciousness uploads. Escape from ignorance through infinite knowledge. Escape from suffering through convenience. It told us we could be gods, immortal, connected, limitless. But there's a catch. You don't get resurrection without surveillance. You don't get utopia without control. And somewhere along the way, belief turned into dependence. The shift didn't happen overnight. It crept in, under the banner of progress. Products became rituals. Platforms became communities. Followers became metrics. Every upgrade was a sermon. Every app update came with the quiet message: this will make your life better. Maybe not perfect, but better. Just enough to keep you close. For most of human history, religion wasn't just belief. It was infrastructure. It gave people meaning, identity, order. It explained suffering, death, love, loyalty, war. It created rituals for grief, stories for power, and rules for living. Religion was the operating system of civilization. But when the Enlightenment came, we started rewriting the code. Science didn't kill God. It just made him harder to find. Over time, we stopped needing a divine figure to explain lightning or disease. We built tools instead of temples. And while religion faded from the center, the human need for structure didn't. People still wanted something bigger than themselves. They still wanted to feel guided. That didn't vanish. It evolved. You don't need to believe in a god to be religious. You just need a system that tells you who you are, what to do, and why it matters. For centuries, that was the role of religion. Today, that role has new branding, and it's backed by trillion-dollar empires. This isn't about whether technology is good or bad. That question's too flat. This is about how it took on a shape we used to call divine. Not with fire and brimstone, but with UX design and machine learning. The question is no longer, do you believe? The question is, what do you obey? Fast forward to the 20th century. Machines didn't just change how we lived, they changed what we trusted. We saw rockets, antibiotics, computers. Progress started to feel sacred. It solved problems faster than prayer. By the 21st century, belief shifted again. Not to nature, not to tradition, but to the screen. And the high priests of this new order weren't prophets. They were engineers. Philosopher Yuval Noah Harari pointed to this shift. In his view, humanity moved from worshiping gods to worshiping data. The divine was no longer found in scripture, but in the cloud. Every click, every location ping, every photo uploaded, it all fed the great archive. We stopped confessing to priests and started confessing to apps. Not with fear, but with casual abandon. Why? Because we trusted the system. Trust is the key. Religious institutions used to hold it. Then governments. Now, increasingly, it's held by tech platforms. Not because they earned it, but because they built systems that feel seamless. When something works without friction, it becomes invisible. And when it becomes invisible, it becomes unquestioned. Look at the structure. Religion offered omniscience through revelation. Tech offers it through search. Religion offered salvation through faith. Tech promises it through uploads, extensions, biohacks. Religion had rituals. Tech has notifications. Both offer a path to something more than human. Both ask for your attention. Both shape your behavior. But there's one difference that matters. Old religions had limits. You could walk away, hide, disconnect. You knew when you were inside the system and when you weren't. Today, the system follows you. In your pocket, on your wrist, in your home. It doesn't wait for Sunday. It's always on. The architecture of belief didn't disappear. It just got a firmware update. When people talk about technology today, they talk about tools, phones, apps, wearables, artificial intelligence. It's framed as innovation, convenience, entertainment. The conversation is shallow by design. New features, better cameras, faster processors. Everything moves fast, so no one slows down to ask what it all points to. We're told it's just progress. Neutral, inevitable, unstoppable. It makes life easier. It connects us, helps us work, learn, navigate. That's the surface. Most people still believe they're users, in control, choosing what to download, what to share, what to engage with. They see themselves as consumers of tech, not followers of it. But there's a reason every major tech release feels like an event. Why launch videos look like sermons? Why CEOs step out on dark stages with choreographed lighting and minimalist language? It's not just branding, it's ritual. People wait, watch, applaud. They don't think of it as worship, but the energy says otherwise. Look at how we talk about figures like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, not as businessmen, as visionaries, as prophets of the future. Their products are framed as revelations. Their ideas are repeated like gospel. People debate their words, predict their moves, defend them like loyalists. There's a hunger to believe someone knows where this is all going. And then there's the promise. Tech companies don't just sell devices, they sell transformation. Better bodies, longer lives, sharper minds, smarter homes, safer streets, more efficient governments. The sales pitch isn't speed, it's salvation. Just one more update, one more product, one more breakthrough. Utopia is always one version away. Most people don't question this because it's embedded in their routine. You don't argue with your phone, you ask it for answers. You don't challenge the platform, you adapt to it. You adjust your behavior, your language, your identity, because the system rewards certain patterns and punishes others. That's not choice, that's design. On the surface, technology is still framed as secular, but its structure mirrors religion. It shapes belief, behavior, morality, community. It tells you what's good, what's obsolete, what should be amplified or erased. It doesn't ask for faith, it just asks for your data, your time, your trust. And most people give it freely because they don't see what they're joining. At the core, this isn't about gadgets, it's about architecture. Technology has become a belief system because it recreates the same psychological framework that religion once filled. Identity, order, meaning, power. But unlike religion, it doesn't rely on myth. It relies on systems, interfaces, code. Tech companies don't want users. They want disciples, not in language, but in behavior. The loyalty isn't emotional, it's behavioral. You check in daily. You trust what you see. You follow the logic of the platform even when you don't realize it. The algorithms don't care what you believe, they care what you do. The real structure isn't the hardware, it's the system of control. Recommendation engines, push notifications, design choices. These aren't neutral, they are behavior maps, built to shape attention, emotion, action. You're not just using the app is shaping you. Over time, your thoughts compress to fit the format. What's worth sharing? What's worth liking? What gets seen? There's a reason the most powerful tech platforms aren't tools, they're environments. Google isn't a search engine, it's an epistemology. A filter on how knowledge is accessed, weighed, remembered. Facebook isn't just a social network. It's a memory factory, a timeline curator, a social scoreboard. TikTok doesn't just show videos. It teaches attention span, mood, pacing. These systems define the edges of your reality. And behind it all, data. Not just as a record, but as a resource. Every click, scroll, pause, message, it's harvested, modeled, fed back into the system to better predict the next step. The more you engage, the more precise the pattern becomes. Not just in what you do, but in who you become. Identity isn't fixed, it's nudged. This is how religion worked too. Not just through beliefs, but through repetition, through structure, through community, through reinforcement. It created habits that became norms and norms that shaped generations. The difference now is scale, speed, intimacy. Religion took centuries to mold civilizations. Tech platforms can shift behavior in weeks. The most effective systems don't ask for loyalty. They create it passively. You don't resist because nothing feels forced. You think you're choosing, but your choices have already been narrowed, filtered, ranked, and predicted. This isn't accidental, it's engineered quietly, efficiently, and it works because it's invisible. Most people won't call it worship. They won't say they've handed over control because nothing feels taken. There's no threat, no decree, no line in the sand, just updates, just preferences, just another feature to make things a little smoother. That's how it slips past the radar. It feels like progress. It feels earned. People don't resist because they don't think they're submitting. They think they're customizing, optimizing, staying current. But the more seamless the system, the harder it is to see what it's doing. Cognitive friction is minimal. You don't feel the trade-offs. There's no moment of decision, just a pattern of small yeses. You say yes to syncing, to tracking, to sharing. You say yes to convenience. But with every yes, you widen the gate. Culturally, we've been trained to reframe dependence as freedom. You can work from anywhere, but you're always online. You can speak your mind, as long as the algorithm favors it. You can choose your feed, but your feed chooses you back. The system gives you the illusion of power while quietly shaping your behavior to fit its logic. Then there's the social layer. To question the system is to sound out of touch, paranoid, anti-tech. You risk sounding like you're resisting the future. And in a culture that worships innovation, that's heresy. So people stay quiet. They conform, even when they sense something's off. And there's the psychological trap. Once something becomes part of your daily life, your mind defends it. That's cognitive dissonance. You justify the time, the data, the dependence, because to admit it's controlling you would feel like weakness. So you double down, you call it necessary, you call it modern, you move the goalposts. Add to that the dopamine loop. Social media, games, instant search results, these aren't random. They're built to trigger rewards. The system knows how to keep you close, and the closer you get, the less you question it. You don't need to be forced to comply, you just need to stay entertained. The resistance doesn't fail because people are blind. It fails because people don't want to look. Seeing it clearly means rethinking how they live, work, connect. And that's uncomfortable. So instead, they scroll. Not because they're lost, but because they're busy convincing themselves they're free. This didn't happen because people are weak. It happened because the system is strong. Not strong like a weapon, strong like gravity. You don't notice it, but it shapes everything. Movement, choice, the expectation. It pulls without sound. The deeper truth is this. Technology didn't become religion by accident. It stepped into a vacuum. As traditional belief systems lost authority, something had to fill the space. People still needed guidance, order, purpose, and tech offered a cleaner version. No shame, no commandments, no ancient texts, just progress, just now, just more. But what really shifted wasn't the tools. It was the belief in what's real. In the past, the sacred was invisible. God, soul, afterlife. Now, the sacred is measurable. Data, metrics, analytics. If it can't be tracked, it doesn't matter. If it isn't visible, it isn't real. Truth became a spreadsheet. This is the pivot point. The sacred no longer lives in the unseen. It lives in the interface, in the numbers, in the feedback loop. You don't pray for insight, you check your dashboard. You don't ask a priest, you search the algorithm. You don't seek wisdom, you optimize. We didn't just adopt new habits. We adopted a new worldview, one that says faster is better, that constant access equals connection, that surveillance equals safety, that automation equals progress. These aren't features, they're values, and once they take hold, they shape how you see everything else. We've stopped asking, should we build this? We only ask, can we? And the people leading this shift don't present themselves as moral authorities. They present themselves as neutral problem solvers. But the systems they design reshape culture, law, language, attention. They don't just serve the world, they remake it in their image. This is the quiet shift, not a war between old and new, sacred and secular. It's a change in what we're willing to obey, what we call real, what we trust to guide us through the unknown. The divine hasn't vanished, it's just wearing different clothes, and now it speaks in code. The unspoken rule is simple. Don't question the system that feeds you. You don't bite the hand that holds your calendar, your contacts, your memories, your voice. You don't ask too many questions about the platform that organizes your work, your thoughts, your social life. You keep using it, even when it watches, even when it censors, even when it shapes what you see. Because without it, you lose access. And in this age, access is everything. This is the power no one talks about. Not just surveillance, but dependency. Not just algorithms, but emotional contracts. The system works because people need it to work, and that need keeps them quiet. You're free to criticize the government. You're free to mock religion, but mock the platform and you risk exile. You get shadow banned, deranked, ignored. Your voice becomes harder to hear. Not because someone's silencing you directly, but because the system is designed to favor compliance. Relevance is rewarded. Dissent is buried under noise. So most people don't push. They adapt. They frame their words to fit the algorithm. They shape their identity to match the feed. They trade privacy for visibility, authenticity for reach, because that's the cost of staying in the conversation. And it's not just individuals. Whole industries now bend to the logic of the system. Journalists write for clicks. Artists create for engagement. Politicians speak in metrics. Truth is measured in impressions, integrity in follower count. Popularity has become the new moral compass. The platforms don't demand loyalty. They don't need to. They just make you irrelevant if you don't play the game. That's the rule. Stay visible, stay aligned, stay useful, or disappear. And the irony is, most people think they're still in control. They think they're adapting to technology. But what's really happening is slower, deeper. The system is reprogramming belief. Not through force, through habit. You don't need temples when you have terms of service. You don't need commandments when you have default settings. You just need people to stop asking where the power really lives. You don't need to unplug from everything. That's not realistic. The system is too embedded. It runs your work, your money, your maps, your voice. But you can start noticing where your time, trust, and choices are quietly being taken. First step, stop calling it neutral. The interface isn't passive, it's designed. The defaults matter. Who you see, what you read, what you believe, it's all shaped by how the platform feeds you information. If you treat it like a mirror, you'll miss the architecture behind it. Audit your habits. Not in theory, in action. How often do you reach for your phone when you're bored, anxious, uncertain? What platforms feel like second homes? What apps reward you just for showing up? Start logging the moments, not to judge but to observe. Dependence hides in repetition. Turn off notifications, all of them. If something matters, you'll check it on your terms. If you wait for the system to prompt you, you're not living, you're reacting. Attention is the most valuable resource you have. If you don't protect it, someone else will use it. Make friction your ally. Autoplay, disable it. Location tracking, limit it. Personalized ads, deny them. Friction makes you choose, and choice breaks the trance. The smoother the system, the less you notice how far you've drifted. Create intentional slowness. That's where clarity starts. Choose silence. Not forever, just for a few hours. Go offline. Not to recharge, but to watch what pulls at you. What you reach for. What you feel without the feed. Withdrawal isn't a glitch, it's information. Protect your inner space. That's where belief gets planted. That's where obedience grows. Don't fill every moment with input. Create space to think thoughts that aren't shaped by headlines or metrics. Read things that weren't designed to go viral. Have conversations that won't be posted. The more of your life stays untracked, the freer you are to question it. Teach others, not by preaching, but by modeling restraint. Your kids, your friends, your coworkers. Let them see you choose something older, quieter, slower. It doesn't need to be dramatic. It just needs to be real. And when you notice yourself slipping back into the trance, don't panic. That's the design working. Just pause. Remember what you're trying to protect. Not your privacy, your agency. This isn't about hating technology. It's about seeing what it's become. Not just a tool, but a belief system. Not just something we use, but something we obey. You live in a world where platforms define the edges of your reality. Where data replaces memory and speed replaces depth. Where convenience sells itself as freedom. The system doesn't ask you to believe, it just waits for you to stop noticing. The line between tool and doctrine isn't marked clearly. It fades in slowly until you forget there was ever a line at all. That's how obedience works. Not through fear, through comfort. So now the question isn't, how did we get here? You already know. The question is, what are you still willing to give away?